I often find myself wondering how the world seems to have fallen to its knees at the feet of these 7 men. But in 2026, something feels different. Something colder and more calculated than usual. The announcement of their world tour, which should have been a grand celebration of the King's return, has instead turned into a drama that makes my head spin. Suddenly, there's a list of countries that seem to have been erased from their map without any truly transparent explanation. I feel like their management is no longer just handling music, they're playing a global game of chess that makes me wonder, is this about safety, principles, or just the ego of an industry that has become too massive to touch? This phenomenon isn't just about fans being sad because they can't see their idols, it's about how a pop group can have such selective policies, almost as if they hold their own sovereignty. Personally, I think this isn't just a technical issue, but a shift in values where business interests have started to outweigh their original mission of reaching everyone without boundaries. I'm just here asking myself what's really happening behind those closed doors at their headquarters in Seoul, and here are the countries that made the list. Number 7. Russia. Between moral embargo or unspoken fear, I feel that the decision to exclude Russia from the 2026 tour isn't just about the international sanctions that are still messy everywhere. There's something more personal between their management and a political situation that refuses to settle. If you notice their vague statements, there's a tendency to maintain a clean image as UN envoys who don't want to be seen supporting regions in conflict. But honestly, to me it feels a bit unfair. Why? Because the fans there are numerous and they have no choice over what their government does, so banning them entirely feels like punishing people who actually need an escape through music. I've heard whispers about impossible logistics, but if you think with sound logic, a group this big could find a way if they really wanted to. The problem is they probably don't want to take risks that could damage their advertising contracts in other global markets. I feel like there's a layer of extreme caution wrapped neatly in a peace narrative, when in reality, they're just playing it safe to avoid losing the American market by stepping foot there right now. Why choose the safest path? I still can't wrap my head around why art has to be limited by political situations that they could actually embrace through their messages on stage. But I guess they've become too comfortable in a safety zone that makes them hesitate to take real risks for fans who are truly isolated. Number 6. Israel. When music is no longer enough to bridge the gap, this is a sensitive point that makes me want to shake my head because the impact has been wild on social media over the last few months. I see in international forums that pressure from various boycott movements is likely what made their management extremely cautious, not just about physical safety, but about reputational safety, which carries a much higher stake than any concert ticket. Honestly, I feel something is off here because on one hand, they always campaign for love yourself and inclusivity, but when faced with harsh global realities like in this region, they choose to withdraw completely and act as if the area isn't even on their radar. I suspect this wasn't a direct decision from the members, but the result of long discussions by people behind the scenes who only think about numbers and how to avoid cancellations from major sponsors with interests on various sides. Is there anything crazier than seeing a music group become an indicator of world policy like this? It feels misplaced because music, which is supposed to be a universal language, apparently has very rigid boundaries, and I feel they missed a chance to be true mediators. They preferred being a safe product that doesn't want to get hit by a single spark of trouble, which for me personally makes their old rebel image feel like it's fading, swallowed by increasingly powerful corporate interests. Number 5. North Korea. The nightmare that never became reality. You might think, well, obviously, why would they go there? But remember back in 2018 when a group of K-pop artists went to Pyongyang. Back then, there was hope that music could be the door to an extraordinary reconciliation. But in 2026, their absence from any tour plans there feels like a confirmation that relations between the two countries are at their coldest point. I've heard from several parties that there were informal talks about a concert in a neutral zone, but everything fell through because of the strict regulations on both sides. What concerns me isn't the politics, but the irony that 7 men with the greatest global influence in Korean history can't visit their own brothers just to sing. If you think about it logically, this is a clear failure of cultural diplomacy, where BTS, who have received cultural merit medals, have no power to pierce through that border wall. I feel a sense of dead end here, and honestly, it's sad to see them limited to being an exclusive symbol for one side, when they have the potential to be a symbol of unity far greater than just Billboard sales. Why did they finally stop trying? Perhaps because the bureaucracy is just too complex to be penetrated, even by popularity of their magnitude. Number 4. China. The Great Wall that keeps getting higher and less logical. This case baffles me because the reasons behind it involve heavy inter-country regulations where small issues from the past can drag on for years. I've noticed how authorities there are tightening rules on idol trends and foreign cultural influence, but excluding China entirely from the 2026 tour feels like a very stern statement. I've heard about super complicated regulatory issues and demands from the other side to censor content heavily, which, to be honest, makes me feel that BTS's management took a brave step by refusing, even if the price is losing access to millions of armies in the mainland. Still, I wonder why they couldn't find a middle ground. Are both sides just too stubborn on their respective principles? If you see how big brands still operate there, music concerts should be able to happen if there's an agreement, but I suspect there's another strategy where BTS wants to show they can still be massively successful without bowing to specific market rules that are too restrictive. It's a bold move, but also very risky because they are essentially limiting themselves from one of the world's largest markets that could be very influential economically. Number 3. Iran, the silent cry behind overly rigid restrictions. I've always felt a strong connection between armies in Iran and BTS's songs that discuss the struggles of life. But unfortunately, in the 2026 tour, this country remains an untouched territory. I've heard about countless requests coming through various social media channels, but we all know how strict the rules on foreign music are there, especially music that carries messages of free expression. What feels underwhelming to me is why the management hasn't even tried to create a formal virtual event or something legally accessible as a form of appreciation for those there. They seem to be going with the flow without any visible extra effort. Honestly, I feel a very strong business consideration here, as if regions that are logistically difficult aren't considered a top priority for management. If you think with sound logic, fans in Iran are some of the most loyal despite many limitations, and their exclusion from the tour list without any alternative solution feels a bit unfair to me. Is there anything more disheartening than having idols who seemingly can't reach your struggle just to hear their voices? I still don't understand why management isn't more creative in reaching regions that are physically difficult to visit. Number 2. Turkey. When economics and security feel like convenient excuses. I was shocked to find Turkey off the list, considering its location is such a strategic meeting point for fans from various surrounding regions. I've heard the main issue is the significant economic fluctuations there, which make ticket price calculations very challenging. But honestly, that feels like an excuse focused purely on profit. Are they now only focusing on locations that can provide maximum financial returns? If the goal is truly to meet fans worldwide, there should be other schemes instead of simply eliminating a country from their major tour plans. I feel a shift in orientation here, where the BTS that used to be for the people has now become a premium global icon that can only be enjoyed in countries with specific economic stability. What weighs on my mind isn't just the absence of a concert there, but how the industry system is slowly starting to sort out which countries are deemed worthy financially to visit. If you think about it logically, this is a major challenge for the entertainment world, and I feel a bit disappointed because they seem to be losing touch with fans who might be struggling amidst difficult economic situations, as if they are too far above to look down. Number 1. Ukraine. Tragedy and hopes unfulfilled on the grand stage. This is the most distressing for me because while many people are starting to get used to news of conflict there, excluding Ukraine from the 2026 tour list for strict security reasons feels like a psychological blow to the fans there. I've heard there were discussions about holding a humanitarian event in a safe zone or at the border, but none of it happened because of insurance issues and security guarantees that management deemed too expensive. Honestly, I feel their management is playing it very safe here. They prefer maintaining operational stability over taking a big risk for a real humanitarian mission. It makes me wonder why they can get international support for other things, but for a tangible action that could provide massive moral support for conflict victims, they choose to be absent. If you think with sound logic, their presence in a region trying to rise again would be extraordinary history, but they choose to stay within the circuit of safe stadiums they usually visit. Is there anything more contradictory than a group known as a symbol of hope being limited by rigid corporate security rules? I still can't wrap my head around why they prefer the comfort zone, and it makes me feel that BTS's current scale might be so massive that their movements have become slower and more restricted. What do you think? Is management's decision to skip these countries purely about safety and technicalities, or is there a much larger business consideration behind it all? I feel we need to look at this phenomenon more critically, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. Which country do you think is most unfairly left out of this 2026 tour? Would you like me to dive deeper into the secrets behind how other big artists choose their tour locations?